Have you ever wondered why some stories in the Bible seem to carry hidden meanings, waiting to be uncovered? The Bible, a collection of ancient texts, is filled with profound narratives that have been passed down through generations. Yet, beyond the surface, there lies a deeper layer of wisdom, one that is not always obvious to the casual reader. It is this hidden wisdom that has inspired theologians, scholars, and everyday people to explore the meanings that transcend time and culture. You might be familiar with some of the well-known stories from the Bible: David and Goliath, Joseph's journey from the pit to the palace, or the parables of Jesus. These stories are often taught in a straightforward manner. David defeats the giant, Joseph forgives his brothers, and the Good Samaritan helps the wounded traveler. But what if there is more to these stories than meets the eye? What if each of these seemingly simple tales holds life-changing lessons that are not immediately apparent? The concept of hidden meanings in the Bible is not a new one. Throughout history, many people have sought to unlock the layers of symbolism, prophecy, and spiritual truths embedded in the sacred texts. These meanings are not always immediately apparent. Sometimes, they require patience, reflection, and a willingness to look beyond the literal interpretation. But once discovered, these hidden meanings have the power to transform the way we understand not just the Bible, but also life itself. Imagine if you could tap into this ancient wisdom. What lessons could you learn about patience, perseverance, leadership, and faith? What would happen if you could apply these lessons to your personal life or business ventures? The beauty of biblical teachings is that they are timeless. The struggles that people face today are not so different from the struggles of the ancient Israelites, the apostles, or even the early Christians. The principles embedded in these stories can guide us through the challenges of our modern lives. Whether in our relationships, careers, or personal growth, in this guide, we will embark on a journey to uncover some of the hidden meanings within the Bible. We will dive deep into specific stories and explore how they reveal powerful lessons that can be applied to our everyday lives. Along the way, we will discuss how these teachings intersect with concepts of leadership, business ethics, and personal development. The Bible, after all, is not just a religious text, it is a treasure trove of wisdom for anyone willing to seek its hidden truths. By the end of this guide, you will not only gain a deeper understanding of the Bible's stories but also discover how to apply their lessons in practical ways. Whether you're seeking personal growth, business success, or a deeper connection with your faith, the hidden meanings within the Bible can provide invaluable insights. So, let us begin our journey into the ultimate guide to biblical hidden meanings. One of the most well-known and captivating stories in the Bible is that of Joseph, the beloved son of Jacob, who was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers and eventually rose to power as the second in command of Egypt. At first glance, Joseph's journey seems like a simple tale of betrayal, survival, and eventual triumph. However, beneath this surface lies a profound message about perseverance, faith, and the mysterious ways in which God's plans unfold in our lives. Joseph was born into a family full of tension. His father, Jacob, loved him more than his 11 brothers, which caused deep resentment among the siblings. Jacob's favor was made even more evident by the ornate coat he gave to Joseph, an act that further fueled his brothers' jealousy. This coat, often referred to as the coat of many colors, symbolized not just Jacob's love for Joseph but also his preference for him over the other brothers. The coat became a symbol of Joseph's special status, and naturally, his brothers despised him for it. The first major turning point in Joseph's life came when he had a series of dreams that seemed to predict his future greatness. In one dream, he saw himself and his brothers gathering sheaves of grain, and his sheaf rose above the others while the others bowed down to it. In another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. To Joseph, these dreams were clear indications that he was destined for greatness. But to his brothers, they were the final straw. They saw his dreams as a threat to their own position in the family and were filled with anger and envy. One day, when Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were tending sheep in the fields, his brothers saw this as their opportunity to get rid of him once and for all. At first, they planned to kill him, but Reuben, the oldest, persuaded them to throw him into a pit instead, hoping to later rescue him. However, while Joseph was in the pit, the brothers saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passing by. In a moment of cold calculation, They decided to sell Joseph into slavery to the traders, who then took him to Egypt. This betrayal, this complete abandonment by his family, marked the beginning of Joseph's long and arduous journey. For most of us, such an event would feel like the end of the road, betrayed by the people closest to us and sent into an unknown and frightening future. Yet, as the story unfolds, we see that Joseph's life was far from over. In fact, this moment of betrayal would eventually be the catalyst for his rise to greatness. Joseph's story, particularly his time in Egypt, is a testament to the power of perseverance and faith. Sold as a slave to an Egyptian officer named Potiphar, Joseph found himself in a foreign land, far from his family and the comforts of his home. It would have been easy for him to lose hope, to curse his brothers for their actions, and to abandon his faith. But instead, Joseph chose to trust in God and use his situation to the best of his abilities. In Potiphar's house, Joseph quickly earned the trust of his master and was put in charge of the entire household. He worked hard, was honest, and remained faithful to his values. Joseph's success was not the result of luck or favoritism but rather his unwavering commitment to doing what was right. Even in a foreign and hostile environment, his faith in God was evident in everything he did, and God blessed him with success. However, Joseph's fortunes were once again put to the test when Potiphar's wife attempted to seduce him. Joseph refused her advances, choosing to honor his master and his God. This act of integrity led to further betrayal. Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of trying to assault her, and as a result, Joseph was thrown into prison. Once again, Joseph found himself in a dire situation, facing false accusations and abandonment. But despite the unfairness of his circumstances, Joseph did not give up. He chose to trust that God had a purpose for his life, even if he couldn't see it at that moment. In prison, Joseph's faith and integrity continued to shine. He interpreted the dreams of two fellow prisoners, which eventually led to his release when Pharaoh himself had troubling dreams. Pharaoh, unable to find anyone who could interpret his dreams, was told about Joseph's ability. Joseph, once again, found himself standing before a powerful ruler, and this time, his faithfulness would lead to a dramatic change in his life. Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams accurately, predicting 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh, impressed by Joseph's wisdom, appointed him as the second in command of Egypt, responsible for overseeing the storage of food during the years of plenty and managing the distribution of food during the famine. Joseph's rise from a slave in a foreign land to the second most powerful man in Egypt was nothing short of miraculous. Joseph's rise to power in Egypt is nothing short of miraculous, and it is in this chapter of his life that we see the profound and far-reaching effects of his faith and perseverance. Having been betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison, Joseph's journey to becoming the second most powerful man in Egypt is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the divine plan that can unfold even in the most unlikely circumstances. When Pharaoh had troubling dreams, it was Joseph's reputation as a dream interpreter that brought him into the royal court. Pharaoh had dreamed of 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine, and none of his advisors could interpret the dream. But Joseph, with God's help, was able to provide an accurate interpretation, advising Pharaoh to store up food during the 7 years of abundance to prepare for the coming famine. Pharaoh, impressed by Joseph's wisdom and insight, appointed him as the second in command of Egypt, giving him authority over the land and the kingdom's resources. Joseph's new position was one of incredible power and responsibility. As the overseer of Egypt's food supplies, Joseph was entrusted with ensuring the survival of the nation during the coming years of famine. But while Joseph's political success was remarkable, it was his inner character, shaped by his experiences of betrayal, hardship, and faith, that truly defined his leadership. During the years of abundance, Joseph worked tirelessly, storing up grain in preparation for the famine. His wisdom and foresight proved invaluable when the famine arrived, and soon, not only Egyptians but people from neighboring lands came to Egypt seeking food. Among those who came were Joseph's brothers, who, unaware of his rise to power, came to Egypt to buy grain. The moment Joseph saw them, he recognized them immediately, but they did not recognize him. They had not seen him in years, and in their minds, the Joseph they knew had been long dead or lost to slavery. Joseph's first instinct might have been revenge. After all, these were the same men who had thrown him into a pit and sold him into slavery, causing him years of suffering. But as Joseph looked upon his brothers, something deeper stirred within him, a mixture of emotions that included pain, anger, but also a sense of responsibility and a desire to understand why everything had unfolded the way it had. He recognized that this moment was part of a much larger plan, one that God had orchestrated from the very beginning. Instead of confronting them immediately, Joseph decided to test his brothers, to see if they had changed. He accused them of being spies and demanded that they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to Egypt as proof of their honesty. Joseph's actions were not born out of malice but out of a desire to know whether his brothers had truly repented for their past actions and whether they had become the men they should have been. As they returned home to fetch Benjamin, the brothers were faced with their own guilt. They realized that their past actions against Joseph were wrong, and they began to understand the weight of what they had done. In this moment of reflection, Joseph's brothers began to confront their own shortcomings, and through this process, they began to change. When Benjamin finally arrived in Egypt and Joseph saw him, his emotions overwhelmed him. He ordered that a feast be prepared for the brothers, and as they dined together, he could no longer contain his feelings. In an emotional outburst, Joseph revealed his true identity to his brothers. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt," he said, "and now, do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." The power of this moment cannot be understated. Joseph had the power to take revenge, to punish his brothers for their betrayal. He could have ordered their imprisonment or even their deaths. But instead, Joseph chose the path of forgiveness. He saw the hand of God at work in his life, and he understood that the suffering he had endured was not in vain. It was part of a divine plan to save not only his family but many others from starvation. Joseph's forgiveness of his brothers is one of the most profound and powerful lessons in the Bible. It speaks to the ability to rise above personal hurt and choose reconciliation over revenge. In the business world and in life, this lesson is incredibly relevant. Many times, we are wronged by others, whether it is in a professional setting, in our personal relationships, or within our families. The temptation to seek revenge or hold on to resentment can be overwhelming. But the example set by Joseph shows us that true strength comes not from holding grudges, but from offering forgiveness and choosing to move forward in a spirit of grace. Joseph's forgiveness also provides a powerful model for leadership. In his position of authority, Joseph could have used his power to settle scores or enforce justice in a way that would have been justified in the eyes of many. But instead, he used his position to foster reconciliation, to heal broken relationships, and to lead with humility. This is the essence of transformational leadership, leading not by domination, but by example, compassion, and integrity. As Joseph's brothers knelt before him, begging for forgiveness, Joseph's heart was filled with compassion. He reassured them, saying, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." This realization, that God's purposes often unfold in ways we cannot understand at the time, is another crucial lesson from Joseph's story. It shows us that even in our darkest moments, when we are betrayed, mistreated, or misunderstood, God can use those very experiences to bring about something greater. Joseph's life is a living testimony to the power of God's timing and providence. He did not see the full picture until much later, but when he did, he recognized that every trial he endured had been part of a divine plan to bring him to this moment, where he could save not only his family but an entire nation. In the same way, the trials we face in our own lives can often lead us to places we never imagined. And through faith, we can discover the hidden meanings behind our struggles. After Joseph revealed his identity to his brothers, he instructed them to return to Canaan and bring their father, Jacob, to Egypt so that the entire family could be reunited. Joseph had not only forgiven his brothers for their past actions but had also been given the responsibility to save them from the famine that was devastating the region. It was a moment of profound reconciliation, but it was also the beginning of a new chapter for Joseph, a chapter that would test his leadership, patience, and commitment to his family and his faith. As Joseph's family arrived in Egypt, he arranged for them to settle in the land of Goshen, the fertile area in the northeastern part of Egypt. He ensured that they had everything they needed to survive the famine, including food, land, and protection. Joseph's actions demonstrate a remarkable balance of generosity and wisdom. He did not only save his family from hunger, but he also set them up for long-term prosperity. His leadership was not just about managing resources, it was about understanding the needs of those around him and meeting those needs in a way that would benefit them for years to come. In this, Joseph's leadership style is revealed as one of service and foresight. He had the power to treat his brothers and family as subordinates. But instead, he chose to elevate them. He ensured that they had a secure future, one that would allow them to flourish even in the midst of a national crisis. This selflessness in leadership is an important lesson in both business and personal life. In any leadership role, it is easy to focus on one's own success and advancement, but true leadership is about empowering others, building them up, and thinking beyond the immediate present. Joseph's ability to lead with humility and vision is further demonstrated when Pharaoh, in recognition of Joseph's wisdom, gave him a new name, Zaphenath-Paneah, which meant God speaks, and he lives. This name, along with the Egyptian wife Pharaoh gave him, symbolized Joseph's complete transformation from a slave in a foreign land to a ruler in Egypt. Yet, despite the new status and the power that came with it, Joseph never lost sight of the values that had guided him from the beginning: integrity, humility, and faith. However, Joseph's leadership and patience would soon be put to the ultimate test. After their father Jacob passed away, Joseph's brothers became fearful. They worried that, now that their father was no longer alive, Joseph might take revenge for what they had done to him all those years ago. They sent a message to Joseph, asking him to forgive them one more time, and to assure them that he would not harm them. Joseph's reaction to this request is telling of the depth of his character. He wept when he heard their plea, not out of anger, but because he was deeply moved by their continued guilt. He reassured them once again that he had forgiven them and that they had nothing to fear. "Am I in the place of God?" Joseph asked, reminding them that it was not his place to take revenge. Instead, he recognized that God had used their actions for a greater purpose. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done: the saving of many lives." This statement is one of the most profound reflections on the nature of divine providence. Joseph was able to see the bigger picture, the long-term purpose behind the suffering he had endured. He realized that everything that had happened in his life, from being sold into slavery, to rising to power, to forgiving his brothers, was part of God's grand plan to bring about good. This understanding of divine purpose is crucial for anyone facing adversity. It teaches us that, even in the darkest times, God may be at work in ways we do not immediately understand. The ability to look beyond immediate circumstances and trust in a higher plan is an important lesson for navigating both personal struggles and professional challenges. Joseph's recognition of God's hand in his life also shows the power of patience. He had endured years of hardship, betrayal, and separation from his family, but through it all, he remained steadfast in his faith. His patience did not mean passivity, it was an active trust in God's timing and purpose. In business, patience is often the key to success. It takes time to build relationships, establish trust, and see the fruits of one's labor. Joseph's life teaches us that the path to success is rarely immediate, and the journey may involve many obstacles. But through patience and perseverance, the rewards can be extraordinary. Joseph's leadership continued to be a beacon of hope for the Israelites. Even after his death, the impact of his decisions lived on. His wisdom in managing Egypt's resources during the famine saved countless lives, and his ability to forgive and reconcile with his brothers laid the foundation for the future of the Jewish people. Joseph's story is one of transformation, not only for himself but for his entire family and for the nation of Egypt. His legacy serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of leadership, faith, patience, and forgiveness. In a modern context, Joseph's story offers invaluable lessons for business and personal life. His ability to overcome adversity, lead with integrity, and forgive those who wronged him is a model for anyone striving for success, both in their professional and personal endeavors. Joseph's journey is a testament to the idea that no matter how difficult the circumstances may seem, perseverance, faith, and a focus on long-term goals can lead to great rewards. Joseph's leadership did not only shine through his personal integrity and his capacity for forgiveness, but also in the way he effectively managed Egypt's resources during the years of famine. When Pharaoh appointed Joseph as second in command, he gave him the immense responsibility of overseeing the country's food supply. This role required not only an astute understanding of economics but also the ability to manage human relationships with wisdom and diplomacy. During the 7 years of abundance, Joseph's plan to store grain was not just a matter of stockpiling food, it was a deliberate strategy for ensuring Egypt's survival and prosperity. Joseph knew that the famine would eventually strike, but he also understood that the best way to weather the storm was to prepare well in advance. His decision to store grain in vast quantities demonstrated his strategic foresight and long-term thinking. While others might have been content to enjoy the abundance of the present, Joseph remained focused on the future, understanding that prosperity today can quickly turn to scarcity tomorrow. In managing Egypt's resources, Joseph also displayed a remarkable ability to balance generosity with pragmatism. As the famine spread, people from other regions and nations came to Egypt seeking food. Joseph did not hoard the grain for Egypt alone, but he opened the doors of the kingdom to anyone in need, asking for payment in exchange. While this might have seemed like a cold, transactional approach, it was, in fact, a necessary step in sustaining the kingdom's wealth and stability. By charging for the grain, Joseph ensured that Egypt's resources would last throughout the duration of the famine, while also securing Egypt's position as a major economic hub in the ancient world. This ability to think pragmatically, while balancing generosity and self-preservation, is a key leadership trait that we can learn from Joseph. In business and in life, it's important to be able to make decisions that serve both immediate needs and long-term goals. Just as Joseph managed Egypt's resources in preparation for the worst-case scenario, effective leaders must be able to anticipate challenges and plan accordingly. Whether it's managing finances, time, or people, strategic thinking and foresight are critical for achieving sustainable success. Joseph's role as a resource manager, however, was not limited to the grain supply. As the famine deepened, the people of Egypt found themselves desperate for food. In a bold move, Joseph began to acquire land from the people in exchange for grain, consolidating the country's wealth and ensuring that the state could provide for its citizens in the years ahead. Though some might view this as a controversial move, it was, in fact, an example of Joseph's pragmatic approach to leadership. By acquiring land in exchange for food, he secured the future of the Egyptian people and allowed them to survive a crisis that would otherwise have decimated the population. This act also illustrates Joseph's understanding of the importance of relationships. By working within the system and using his position to ensure that Egypt's people were fed, Joseph created a strong bond of trust between himself and Pharaoh, as well as between Egypt and its neighboring nations. As a leader, Joseph knew that relationships were the foundation of his success. He did not simply act as a ruler from a distance, he worked closely with those he served, ensuring that their needs were met while also safeguarding the future of the nation. Furthermore, Joseph's wisdom in managing resources extended to his family. When his brothers arrived in Egypt to buy grain, Joseph ensured that they received what they needed, but he also took the time to ensure their well-being. His decisions to provide for them were not based on obligation alone, they were rooted in a deeper understanding of the importance of family and unity. By making sure his family was well taken care of, Joseph not only fulfilled his responsibility to them but also ensured that the family would thrive in the long term. Joseph's approach to leadership provides valuable lessons for anyone in a position of authority. His ability to balance the needs of the present with the challenges of the future, as well as his deep understanding of human relationships, makes him an exemplary model for business leaders, family leaders, and anyone who must make important decisions in times of crisis. One of the most critical aspects of Joseph's leadership was his ability to remain calm and composed under pressure. Despite facing immense challenges, being sold into slavery, wrongly imprisoned, and eventually overseeing a nation in the throes of a devastating famine, Joseph remained grounded and focused on his responsibilities. This ability to maintain composure in the face of adversity is a lesson that can be applied to any field, especially business and leadership. In the modern world, we often face pressures that seem insurmountable: deadlines, Financial challenges and personal obstacles can sometimes feel overwhelming. However, Joseph's story reminds us that leadership is not defined by how we react in moments of comfort, but by how we respond in moments of crisis. True leaders are able to keep a steady hand on the wheel, making thoughtful, deliberate decisions even when the stakes are high. Joseph's calmness in the face of adversity was also rooted in his deep faith. He understood that the challenges he faced were part of a larger divine plan, and this faith allowed him to remain patient and composed. When faced with the responsibility of managing Egypt's resources, Joseph didn't panic or make impulsive decisions. Instead, he took the time to plan carefully, working towards solutions that would benefit both Egypt and the surrounding nations. In conclusion, Joseph's ability to manage Egypt's resources with foresight and wisdom is a critical aspect of his leadership that resonates deeply in both the personal and business realms. His story teaches us that leadership is not just about making decisions, it's about understanding the needs of those you serve, planning for the future, and building relationships based on trust and compassion. Joseph's approach to leadership, grounded in faith, patience, and practicality, offers timeless lessons that can help anyone in a position of responsibility navigate the complexities of life and work. Joseph's story is one of profound transformation, not just for him but also for his family. His ability to forgive and reconcile with his brothers, who had once betrayed him so horribly, serves as one of the most powerful examples of grace and redemption in the Bible. Despite all the hardships he had endured, being sold into slavery, wrongfully imprisoned, and separated from his family for years, Joseph chose to forgive those who had wronged him. His journey reveals the incredible power of forgiveness and its ability to heal even the deepest wounds. The moment of reconciliation between Joseph and his brothers is not only a turning point in his life but also a pivotal moment in the narrative of the Israelite people. After the death of their father, Jacob, Joseph's brothers feared that he would take revenge on them for their past actions. They had carried the guilt of their betrayal for years, and now, with their father gone, they feared the consequences. In a moment of vulnerability, they sent a message to Joseph, asking for forgiveness one last time. When Joseph received their message, he wept. His tears were not those of anger, but of sorrow for the pain his brothers were still carrying. Despite all that had happened, Joseph was not bitter. Instead, he responded with a powerful declaration of forgiveness. "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's response to his brothers is a lesson in divine perspective. He understood that, although his brothers had intended to harm him, God had used their actions for a greater purpose. Joseph was able to see beyond the hurt and the betrayal and recognize the larger plan that was unfolding. This perspective did not excuse the wrong that had been done to him, but it allowed him to let go of his resentment and choose forgiveness instead. Forgiveness, as Joseph demonstrated, is not always about forgetting the past or excusing the wrongs that have been done. It is about choosing to release the hold that past hurts have on us. Joseph could have sought revenge. He could have punished his brothers for what they did to him. But he chose a higher road. He recognized that holding on to anger and bitterness would only continue the cycle of harm. Instead, he chose healing. His forgiveness brought reconciliation to his family and restored the bond that had been broken many years earlier. This lesson is invaluable not only in personal relationships but also in the business world. In any leadership position, conflicts are inevitable, mistakes are made, misunderstandings happen, and sometimes people may even betray or disappoint us. Joseph's example shows us that while it is natural to feel hurt and angry when we've been wronged, the true path to healing and peace lies in forgiveness. Holding on to grudges only causes more damage, while forgiveness opens the door to restoration and growth. In the context of business, forgiveness can be transformative. In the workplace, it is easy to get caught up in competition, office politics, or even betrayals of trust. However, if we approach these situations with a mindset of forgiveness, we can break the cycle of negativity and instead focus on solutions. Leaders who model forgiveness create an environment where employees feel safe, valued, and able to thrive, even when things go wrong. Joseph's ability to let go of resentment and choose reconciliation made him not only a wise leader but also a compassionate one. Forgiveness also plays a critical role in rebuilding relationships that may have been fractured by past mistakes. Joseph's family was torn apart by their betrayal, but through forgiveness, Joseph was able to restore their unity. This principle of rebuilding relationships is one that can be applied to both personal and professional spheres. Whether it is between family members, colleagues, or business partners, reconciliation is possible when there is a willingness to forgive and work toward healing. Joseph's ability to forgive also teaches us about the importance of perspective. Forgiveness is often difficult because we focus so much on the pain and the injustice we have suffered. However, Joseph's understanding of God's larger plan helped him see beyond the immediate hurt. His story reminds us that, while we may not always understand why things happen the way they do, we can trust that there is a higher purpose behind every trial. Joseph's willingness to forgive his brothers was not based on a sense of justice or fairness but on his deep trust in God's providence. This kind of forgiveness does not come easily, but it is a choice. It requires humility and a willingness to let go of our need for control or retribution. Joseph, having been elevated to a powerful position in Egypt, could have easily chosen to seek revenge against those who had wronged him. Instead, he chose to honor God and his family by forgiving. His choice allowed for the healing of the family dynamic, and it set an example for generations to come. In our own lives, forgiveness can be the key to healing relationships that have been damaged. Whether it is forgiving a friend, a spouse, a family member, or even a colleague, the act of forgiveness frees us from the chains of anger and resentment. It is an act of liberation, both for the one who forgives and for the one who is forgiven. Just as Joseph's forgiveness restored peace to his family, our forgiveness can bring peace to our lives and our relationships. The power of forgiveness is not just emotional, it's practical as well. In business, leaders who embrace forgiveness build trust within their teams. Employees who feel supported and understood are more likely to give their best work and contribute to the overall success of the company. Just as Joseph created a culture of reconciliation and trust in Egypt, business leaders today can foster a similar environment by promoting forgiveness and understanding. Joseph's choice to forgive his brothers, despite the deep wounds they had inflicted on him, is a powerful example of the transformative power of grace. His ability to let go of bitterness and embrace reconciliation allowed him to experience peace and fulfillment. His forgiveness not only healed his relationship with his family but also allowed him to fulfill his God-given purpose of saving many lives. Joseph's story reminds us that, in both personal and professional life, forgiveness is not just a moral duty, it is a practical tool for growth, healing, and success. When we choose forgiveness, we choose freedom from the past and from the negative emotions that bind us. And just as Joseph's act of forgiveness led to peace, restoration, and success, so too can our own acts of forgiveness lead us to a more fulfilled and prosperous life. As the story of Joseph unfolds, we witness a remarkable journey of suffering, resilience, and ultimate redemption, from the moment Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers to his rise to power as the second in command of Egypt. His journey is a testimony to the power of faith, perseverance, and, most importantly, forgiveness. Joseph's story is not merely about a series of events that led to his success, it is about the transformative process of character building that allowed him to rise above adversity and become a leader who changed the course of history. In the final chapters of Joseph's life, we see the culmination of all the virtues that shaped him. After years of living in Egypt, becoming a powerful leader, and navigating the famine that affected not only Egypt but also surrounding nations, Joseph faced one of the most challenging moments of his life, the chance to confront his brothers, the very ones who had betrayed him and caused him so much pain. In a moment of reckoning, he could have chosen revenge. He could have sought justice and retribution for the years of torment he had endured. But Joseph made a different choice, a choice that would forever alter the dynamics of his family and the future of his people. He chose forgiveness. Joseph's forgiveness was not an easy decision, it was a choice born out of deep understanding, wisdom, and a recognition that there is a larger plan at play. It was a decision that acknowledged the painful past, but also embraced the opportunity for healing and reconciliation. In his own words, Joseph said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." This statement, filled with profound wisdom, encapsulates the essence of Joseph's life, that even the most painful experiences can serve a greater purpose when viewed through the lens of faith. Joseph's choice to forgive his brothers was not merely about letting go of personal hurt, it was about releasing the toxic grip that anger and resentment can have on our hearts. Forgiveness, as Joseph demonstrated, is not about condoning the wrongdoings or pretending that they never happened. Rather, it is about making the conscious decision to move forward and not allow the past to define our future. It is a powerful reminder that we have the ability to choose peace over conflict, healing over bitterness, and love over hate. This is perhaps the greatest lesson Joseph's story has to offer. In business, in relationships, and in life, we will all encounter moments of betrayal, disappointment, and hardship. People will let us down, they may hurt us, and we may even feel abandoned or misunderstood. But Joseph's example teaches us that the key to overcoming these challenges lies not in holding onto our pain or seeking revenge, but in choosing forgiveness. Joseph's forgiveness of his brothers not only restored his family but also preserved the future of an entire nation. Through forgiveness, he was able to break the cycle of destruction and create an environment where reconciliation and healing could flourish. Joseph's story also emphasizes the importance of faith in God, in a larger plan, and in the belief that everything happens for a reason. Throughout his trials, Joseph never lost faith, even in the darkest moments of his life. When he was wrongfully imprisoned and sold into slavery, Joseph trusted that God had a purpose for him. His faith allowed him to persevere when the odds were stacked against him. And it was this faith that ultimately led to his success. Joseph understood that his suffering was not without purpose, and that through his trials, he was being shaped for something greater. This unwavering trust in God's plan was what allowed him to rise above the circumstances and achieve greatness. Moreover, Joseph's story speaks to the importance of resilience. In business and in life, we are all going to face setbacks and challenges that may seem insurmountable at times. Joseph's ability to endure hardship and come out stronger on the other side is a testament to the power of resilience. His journey from the pit to the palace is not just about external success, it is about the internal strength and character he developed through adversity. Joseph teaches us that it is not the challenges we face that define us, but how we respond to them. Do we let adversity break us, or do we rise above it and use it as a stepping stone to greater things? Joseph's life also reminds us of the importance of humility. Despite his rise to power, Joseph never lost sight of where he came from or the values that shaped him. He remained humble, acknowledging that it was not his own ability that brought him success, but God's provision and guidance. This humility allowed Joseph to treat others with respect and kindness, even those who had wronged him. His humility in leadership is a stark contrast to the arrogance and pride often seen in positions of power today. By remaining grounded, Joseph was able to lead with wisdom, empathy, and grace, qualities that earned him the trust and loyalty of those around him. As Joseph reconciled with his brothers, he demonstrated the power of love and unity. His actions were a catalyst for healing not only in his family but in the broader community. By choosing to forgive, Joseph broke the chains of division and brought about reconciliation that reverberated for generations. His story challenges us to look beyond our differences, our grievances, and our hurts, and to seek unity, whether in our families, workplaces, or communities. Joseph's example reminds us that love and forgiveness are the keys to building stronger, more harmonious relationships. Joseph's life was a journey of transformation, both for himself and for those around him. From a young man filled with dreams, to a slave, to a ruler in Egypt, Joseph's story is a powerful narrative of faith, resilience, forgiveness, and leadership. His legacy is not just in his rise to power or his success in managing Egypt during the famine, it is in the way he led with integrity, the way he forgave those who wronged him, and the way he trusted in God's plan for his life. As we reflect on Joseph's story, we are reminded that no matter how dark the journey may seem, there is always the potential for redemption. Joseph's life shows us that even in the face of adversity, we can rise above, forgive, and fulfill the purpose we were meant for. His story is a beacon of hope, a reminder that with faith, forgiveness, and resilience, we can overcome any obstacle and achieve the greatness that lies within us.